Hey everyone, Marnix here. As you may have seen in some of the comments of our previous videos, I try to be quite active in answering your guys' questions. And if you've seen some of our previous videos, such as for example the one regarding designing for virality, sometimes I feel like a simple comment isn't really enough to answer your questions. And it keeps me up at night. And eventually, I've thought about it enough and I just make a longer video about it because I think some questions could be answered by like a 2-sentence statement, but truly deserve a video that goes a bit more in depth. This today is one of those videos. This comment comes from the "So you want to make a game" video. It was quite popular, got a lot of game design related questions. And one of them is from Ink in the Grass. I think that's it. This one is for you. And he asked me, in your opinion, do you think it's important for an aspiring game developer to play as many games as they can for the sake of generating ideas and studying what's already been done? Or will playing too many games take away time that you could actually spend making games? And I responded to that. I said that I'm not the most qualified at that point because I'm not a big gamer anymore. But we do have someone on the team who is quite full in games, and I said some pros and cons and I gave an answer, and I think he got something to start with, but as I said, this kept me up. So today I want to dig a bit more into why I think you shouldn't actually play a lot of games as a game developer, especially if you're an aspiring one, a beginning one, and instead focus on making the games. And I think that some of my answers may surprise you, so you want to be sure to stick around. I want to frame this answer a bit more and tell you what is the situation with us. So I don't really play a lot of games anymore. I have thousands of hours on games in general. Basically from when I was 13, I think even younger, I started with Minecraft, up until probably 21, 22, like 1.5 years ago, I played non-stop games. And even when I started working here at Bite Me Games, working on our first game, we still played a lot of games, but over time that has diminished a lot. And I personally wouldn't consider myself that much of a gamer anymore. I'm a game developer, but the only game I really still play is Forge Industry, the game that we are working on, and I just need to test it. Recently I got a bit into BattleBit, but after like 5 hours it kind of lost its magic for me. And even as hard as it is for me to say, I haven't even started Tears of the Kingdom. I'll get into that in a bit actually, but just to give some context, I'm not the biggest gamer anymore. Also because I'm on like self-improvement and things like that, and I want to be more productive. But we have the opposite in our team as well. So we have one of our developers, William. I think he doesn't know I'm making this video, but he'll probably agree with me when I say that he plays a lot of games. I mean a lot. Like, I don't know, the guy has like too many Steam games and too many hours in all of those games. And there are some advantages to that as well. So know that I do have some of both sides really that went into making this video. But I think where we need to start first is to dissect why do we play games? And I don't mean like, oh, to be entertained. Why do we make games whilst working on our own game? And there are 3 main reasons that I can think of, 3 big categories basically of why do you play games. The first one is, as the question stated, research. Learning more about games, how they implement certain things, what do they do, and just get more inspiration for it. I did this myself, but I wouldn't consider it really playing games. For example, there are a whole bunch of games such as Rise of Industry, Captain of Industry, Factory Town, Timberborn. They're all similar to Forge Industry. And I think I've played all of them a little bit. I spent some time in them and I just wanted to see, okay, what are like the main things they're doing good and they're doing bad. But I never really played too much of the game. I never really had that much I played it in a very analytical mind, and I had my notes next to it and I was like writing things down and logging like, oh, this is something we definitely should do and this is something we shouldn't do. I don't like this, maybe we can re-implement this differently. That is something I think you will have to do. But I consider that work. I don't consider that playing games. And of course, you need to really have some discipline there to actually treat it like work. The second reason why you want to play games is relaxation. You just want to kick back after a long day of work. You spend the entire 8 hours or whatever working on your game or working at your main job or whatever, and you just want to calm down with an hour of video games. And there's nothing really wrong with this. We did it as well. I used to do it back when you first started at Bite Me Games. I played like 1 or 2 games of ARAM, which is like a game mode on League of Legends, just chilling with the boys, talking a bit about life, and always 1 or 2 games really, and then I was done. But then there is the risk of the third category, and that is you're just procrastinating. And this is where I feel a lot of game developers lack the discipline and the accountability to just be like, okay, I'm just procrastinating. What does this mean? Well, you're doing research and then you're playing the same game for like 100 hours. That's not research anymore. That's just finding excuses to playing games. You're not really enjoying it either, because if you're being honest, a lot of games, do you really enjoy them that much? And also, you're not really learning that much from it if you're playing the same game. Those are the three main reasons. I'll dive a bit more into the research one in a moment, but I quickly want to talk a bit more about business development. You are currently maybe an aspiring game developer, or you're working on your first game already. Be honest with yourself. Do you really have the time to not work on your game? Do you want to make this game a success? In our case, for example, we only have so much runway before we crash and burn and our dreams of being a game developer end, because simply we haven't released a successful game, we haven't earned enough money or anything related to that. We just can't keep our doors open, basically, is the problem. If you're in a situation where you have that pressure of, I need to release, I, in my opinion, can't really see a good reason why you should spend time playing games. Even the research one, I am not the biggest fan of, and I actually have a good alternative to that that's much more time efficient than I'll get into. But I think you need to be honest there with yourself. And I think if you want to have the discipline of actually being on a well, not hardcore, if you want to be a game developer, an aspiring game developer, until you've released your first game that has been a somewhat success, don't play games. Just play your own game, keep playing it. If there's any games you're playing, it's your own game, you're playtesting it, and that's it. If you're not playtesting it, you're working on it. And I think, I don't want to be the Sigma grind set 24/7 hustle culture, but that's the reality. We shouldn't be lazy. We shouldn't have games that are 5 years in early access, all because you as the developer don't really feel like working on it right now and just want to kick back and play like 3 hours of BattleBit each night. That's what I have as well. I loved Breath of the Wild. Probably one of my favorite games. I mean, most generic game to love, I guess, but I loved it. And when Tears of the Kingdom was announced, I was hype. And then when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I haven't bought it, I haven't played it, even though I was so hyped for it, because I sat down and I reasonably said to myself, Marnix, look, you played 80 hours of Breath of the Wild. Do you really, like, we were 2 months from release of Forge Industry back then, do you really want to spend 80 hours, so that's basically 1.5 to 2 weeks of just working on the game? Do you want to spend that much time playing Tears of the Kingdom? Or do you want to spend that time making Forge Industry a better game? Or do you want to spend that time fixing bugs, making more models, tweaking the UI, reaching out to more influencers, more press, getting more wish lists, spending that bit of extra time updating your Steam page, things like that? I knew which one to pick, because I could see that the 80 hours I put into improving Forge Industry would have a much higher return on investment. It would just cost me money to get Tears of the Kingdom, whereas I would actually be making money by putting that extra effort into the game. And then it's a no-brainer. I don't know when I'll play Tears of the Kingdom. If Forge Industry is a massive success and I can kick back a bit, I'll probably visit it, but I don't have the time for it right now. And then I want to finally talk about, okay, you want to research. Nothing wrong with that. How do you research? How do I research? Well, first I try to play the game for like an hour or so and learn a bit more about it, but that's not an efficient use of your time, is what I've realized. Do you really want to study games, what makes them good and what makes them bad, such as like for whatever mechanics you want to do? There's one life hack I have. Watch video essays. There are hundreds of guys on YouTube who play a game, who really dissect like the narrative, for example, or who dissect the mechanics, talk about why it is so fun. And you can learn a lot more from those videos than from playing the game yourself. And of course, you're probably saying, but there's no fun in that. I want to enjoy the fun. Well, fun doesn't matter when you're researching. Of course, it matters a bit to see how do I like it, but you're just one person. Whereas if you can watch a like half-hour long video, 20 minutes long, sometimes you have even videos of like 3 hours dissecting certain games, especially ones like, for example, BioShock looks at the narrative, or another great one on the narrative related I recently watched was Firewatch. But even about like mechanics and things like that, or level structure, there are plenty of video essays. Watch that video, make notes of that video, and read the comments. Because what you personally think, that's just one data point. If you read the comments of these videos, they often have like 50k, 100k, 200k views. A lot of people comment on that, and they also comment with their own experience of playing the game. You'll learn a lot more from just reading those comments than from playing the game just by yourself. If you do want to play the game yourself, there are a few things that I want to give with you. Don't play the game for more than 5 to 8 hours. You should have encountered every mechanic that should be important by then. Don't spend 80 hours on a game and call all of those 80 hours research. It's diminishing returns. The first part of the game, you'll learn all of the new mechanics and what does and doesn't work, and that's what's most important. And also, one shout out, if you have played a lot of games, I do see the value, because now I can go to William and I can give him any random mechanic. I'm like, oh, what do you think of this? And he has like this index in his brain. He's like, oh yeah, this and this and this are 3 random games that I have played a bit that have exactly what you're talking about. That's amazing. It's really helpful, but I could live without it. But if you have a friend like that, or if you are that person, there is still value in that. So I hope this explains my stance a bit more on how much games you should play. In general, unless you're successful, don't bother playing games that much. Look into other ways to research it, and if you do play games, go into it purely with an analytical mindset. If you have any other questions regarding anything game design related or anything just game development related, comment them down below. I'll respond to them. Maybe you'll be featured in a video like this, and maybe you'll get a really good answer. Or maybe you think that this is garbage and you think that playing games is the best thing ever. Comment that down below as well. It boosts engagement, and maybe I'm learning something new as well. Apart from that, if you're new here, we're a game development studio ourselves, making our game for the industry and documenting the process behind it and bringing you along for the ride as well. We bring you to some events we go to, we show you the ups and downs of our game development journey, things like that. If that's something that interests you, be sure to go ahead and leave us a like and maybe also subscribe, as it really helps us out. And you get this cool content twice a week. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!